John Maxwell said, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." Here are 5 monumental and transformational leaders. Sir Frank Worrell captained the West Indies between 1960 to 1963. His name is ingrained on $5 notes in Barbados. Some cricketers changed the game in which they play. In the early 1960s, Frank Worrell did just that. It is important to note the climate in which he emerged, colonized and pre-independent Caribbean. Larry Beckles argues that his appointment as the first black West Indies skipper was the grand historic moment. Even though George Headley led the team against England at Bridgetown in 1948, Worrell had been made captain with tenure. Thousands of people across the region were wondering how would he perform. One cricket writer wrote, "Weaker men would have been weighed down by the expectation, but the 36-year-old Worrell had both long experience in the game and a natural capacity for leadership." He embraced the significance that the Australian summer offered. And even though Australia won 2-1, Frank Worrell was heralded for the way he led his side. And the series is still referenced as one of the finest ever played. His opposing skipper in the series, Richie Benaud, said, and I quote, "Had Frank failed on that tour, it would have set West Indies cricket back, and especially the black cricketer, by 20 years. Worrell's triumph was so spectacular that West Indies was driven around the city to a civic reception after 500,000 people turned out to bid the team farewell. And as such, every subsequent series between Australia and West Indies has been played for a trophy named in his honor. He had a win percentage of 60. Sir Garfield Sobers was captain of West Indies between 1965 to 1972. Sobers took over the captaincy at a crucial time. He led his team to victory against 3 world-class teams from 1965 to 1967, one of which was a memorable first ever Test Series victory over the Australian team in 1965 to win the Frank Worrell Trophy, and the following year he won the Wisden Trophy against England. He was also the skipper of the rest of the World 11 during the 1970 tour of England. He was known to be enterprising. He was also known to take risks. He made a generous declaration which allowed England to win a decisive match at Port of Spain. His huge portfolio of being a premier batsman, a dynamic bowler, and an electrifying fielder may have been the final burden that brought his Test career to an early end. He was a good tactician, but after 39 matches as skipper, his captaincy ended. He was knighted by England's Queen Elizabeth II in 1975 and made a national hero in 1998. Even though his win percentage of 23 is not excellent, the crucial role he played, the length of his reign, and his enormous portfolio makes him monumental. Sir Clive Lloyd was captain between 1974 and 1985. In 1974, Clive was handed the captaincy of the team in the series against India. During his captaincy era, West Indies was a very strong team. He led them to consecutive World Cup title wins in 1975 and 1979. He also had 36 Test victories, including 11 consecutive wins. He was a transformational leader. He's also credited to change the West Indies approach and introduce the idea of using 4 fast bowlers rather than 2 fast bowlers and 2 spinners. After Lillian Thompson led Australia, the home team, to an emphatic 5-1 win. One cricket writer wrote, "The spanking received at the hands of the Australians led Lloyd to bring about a change in his style of captaincy. He devised a strategy which was based on intimidating the opposition by employing tall, fast bowlers who could move the ball at blurring speeds. Such a tactic gave birth to an entire generation of unplayable fast bowlers who were instrumental in West Indies ruling the official rankings up until the early 90s. He was a captain of significant international repute. In 2018, he was voted as the best ever cricket captain, just ahead of the great Pakistani Imran Khan in the Cricketers magazine. Rudy Webster said of Sir Clive Lloyd, "England's captain Mike Brearley was highly acclaimed for the quality of his man management. If Brearley had a master's degree in man management, Clive Lloyd had a doctorate." Simon Lister said, "He created the best team that cricket had known. Captaincy in the West Indies is not just a privilege, it is a burden. But Lloyd had the courage to bear it. His leadership was sustained by the gift of acuity. He had a win percentage of 48.64 in Test and 77.71 in ODI. In December 2022, he received an honours doctorate from the University of Guyana." Sir Viv Richards, captain West Indies between 1984 to 1991. He remains the only West Indies captain to have never lost a Test series. He took over the captaincy after Clive Lloyd finished his reign after a stint like no other. He led the team with absolute pride, and his swag and aura gave confidence to the men he led. Viv Richards was fearless and supremely confident. He understood that captaining the region was more than a game, and he was able to transmit that dominant energy to them all. He was a man of principles, refusing a blank check to play for a rebel West Indies squad in South Africa, what he describes as his greatest innings. He had one small hiccup during his reign when Pakistan won the first Test match of the 1987-88 series in Guyana, and injured Richards had opted out of the game, and the team had been led by Desmond Haynes. In following tests, Richards was back, rescuing the team from a series loss with 49 and 123. A 67 and a crucial wicket in the third Test match managed to ensure victory and keep the unbeaten record intact. He had a win percentage of 54 in Test matches and 65 in ODI. Darren Sammy, captain West Indies between 2010 to 2016. Sammy is a charismatic and inspirational leader, renowned for leading the West Indies to back-to-back ICC T20 World Cup titles in 2012 and 2016, and remains the only captain to have done so. Even though his Test record as captain is not impressive, his win percentage as T20 captain is noteworthy at 61%. Sammy was named captain of the West Indies and one-day teams when Chris Gayle did not sign a central contract in 2010, and he led West Indies to the first Test win in 2 years, taking 7 wickets against Pakistan in Providence in 2011. He took on the task of uniting and leading the team at that pivotal juncture. And even though his win percentage as Test captain is not the best for several reasons, he remains one of the greatest T20 captains of all times. Speaking about Sammy's tactical ability as a leader, Mark Nicholas wrote, "Sammy handles his attack with imagination and moves his fielders as if they were chess pieces, closing in on a hapless opponent's board." For his monumental accomplishments, the cricket stadium in St. Lucia was renamed in his honor.